Good morning, friends. Atunde Story here, and I am so excited to bring to you the first inaugural Wellness Spotlight. And I have someone with me today that has been a part of my heart space for many years. This man here is a brother by way of graduate school. I've mentioned several times that I am a PhD graduate, and this brother here was there when I got there and took me under his wing and welcomed me and helped nurture me in this uncomfortable place. And I and he have become twin souls, brother and sister for the long haul. And I just appreciate him so much. And like I said, this brother I met in school. So he's an educated brother, but this brother also educates friends. So I wanted to bring him in to give us a little more perspective, because I know I've been speaking from my own perspective as embodying a woman's body in this journey. But I wanted to have someone come on to share what wellness looks like from a male's perspective. So there was no other person that I can think of. The first person that came to mind was my brother, Johnnie Jackson. And I'm going to let him introduce himself some more. And we're going to just dialogue this morning, friends. So I hope you enjoy.
Wow. Like Tiffany, Dr. Williams, man, like introducing myself is I'm excited to be here with you and kind of talk a little bit. So my name is Johnnie Jackson. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm currently in my grandparents' home in Lima, Ohio, which is Shawnee land, First Nations people. Like my mom and dad, their names are Testa and John. I think that it's really important to know who I come from and who I am and where I want to go. And really, I would think that this conversation we're going to have today is about loving joy. And I know we'll get into this, but I mean, since we're just starting, I always have to show people artwork that you sent me. And this artwork was so important because, it says joy. And it came to me during the time when I was in such grief around losing my grandfather. And to be able to think about those wounds around grief and how you can fill those with joy, particularly loving joy, as a Black man who was a Black boy and who become a Black elder, right? So yeah, that's who I am. My name is Johnnie Jackson, and I hope that we can get into talking about some loving joy today.
And I love how you're speaking about loving joy, right? Because as I want to give a little bit of backstory to the art piece that my brother just shared, it was something that for me, I've actually painted that for him. And what I do each year is I have a word of the year. And for 1 year, my word was joy, because I was in the space of not understanding what joy was. And for the year, I wanted to practice joy, understanding what joy was and actually experiencing joy, right? So as you're speaking of right now is that loving joy, because sometimes as Black folks, we don't love joy, right? And that's just so profound for me, because sometimes we don't think we deserve it or we're even worthy of having joy, right? Because this year my word is happy. And I'm experiencing everything happy, right? Yeah. So can you speak more about, because this segment is wellness from a male's perspective, what does experiencing joy or loving joy from your perspective mean as it relates to your wellness and your wholeness and your liberation?
Sure. Like I'll have to start by telling like a short story that what just happened to me this morning. Yes. As I mentioned earlier, I lost my grandfather last year in April to COVID-19, and lost him in April. His birthday is every July 8th. And that time growing up was such a like amazing time that we would have barbecues, we would have friends over the house, we would have family come in from all different roads, right? So that time of year is such a beautiful time. Well, just last week was my grandfather's birthday, and
Right.
I'm at work and I have like this kind of stress headache that's starting from the middle of my back up my head. And I'm sitting there like, what is going on? Right? Like, what is going on? And then my mind flipped like, you know that it's your grandfather's birthday. You know you should have took this day off work so you can
Mm.
be in a certain type of reverence and community. But I decided to do that American, like push through that pain.
Right.
And that wasn't wellness. That wasn't joy. Right. So I decided this year or next year to really take that time off of work and practice loving joy.
Yes.
One of the things that has filled me up around being able to take over my grandparents' space is planting a garden. We were sharing that this morning. Like my tomatoes are growing, the lavender is growing, the basil is
Yes.
growing, the sage is growing. And before we started today, I had already dried some lavender. So I
Mm.
burned it and just, got it into the space
Yes.
because for calming the anxiety. And it's a calming balm for folks. It's earth medicine, right? So
Yes.
when I think of wellness, it's being able to say all of those emotions around fear, around sadness, around happiness, around joy, around rage,
Yeah.
which I feel that we don't often have a lot of spaces that Black folks can tap into their full emotional humanity and not feel judged, which
Yeah.
I feel very sacred about our relationship because we've always been able to tap into the full humanity of what it means to be a Black woman, what it means to be a Black man, and what it means to be in a loving relationship and to be friends and love being, as like Bell Hooks kind of talks about, not just that romantic love. Like, what does it mean to commit to friendship or
Right.
care for friendship or have a responsibility or respect for friendship that is anchored in love, and particularly what I kind of keep thinking about is loving joy, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of answer it like that.
And I want to touch on something that you just said because we've nurtured a friendship.
That's real.
And, we've had our moments where we've had to step away for our own individual healing. We've had experiences happen in our lives. Like you said, our grandfather has passed as of recent. And, having to feel our feelings, like you named them, joy, but also rage and being transparent in, I talk about on the channel, feeling your feelings because there's a lesson there, right? And I wanted to share with you, especially because there is this relationship that we have become, like I said, the during the program, I was chaos and you were eros, right? We are
Yes.
the bookends to all of that,
Yeah.
that middle space, right? Because we've
Real.
allowed one another to be vulnerable, to be open, transparent, without judgment, without sometimes even, just listening, because a lot of
Yeah.
times we have our own answer, but we need someone to bear witness to that. And I've grown leaps and bounds by having someone like you in my tribe because it's not like you said, it's not a intimate, partner relationship, but this is my brother. This is someone that is in the collective that has helped me grow. And, I remember saying to you, you've given me hope in Black men, and you've become a representation of what Black men, good, healthy, positive, relational, perspectives are between Black men and Black women should be and could be, you know. So I wanted to appreciate that about you.
Yeah. So I also wanted to bring up, I appreciate that, and bring up also like how we've been in conflict, because like the care and the responsibility and the respect and love is a piece, but we've been in conflict, like me not knowing, me trying to escape America, go back to Korea, right? And do this thing where I'm like, well, in graduate school, I'm being pushed out, obviously, and they don't want me there, but you and our other sister still being there, and then seeing me flee, what that, the chasm that it caused, I'm not knowing that like that is happening to y'all, seeing me flee, and not knowing that like how much hurt me leaving caused for you and our other sister. I wasn't fully aware of it until you made me aware of like being so distant after us being in such close proximity and being in relationship in a so caring way. And like that, I didn't know that I hurt y'all, and that caused hurt for me to know that like my distance and me going off to try to see like how I can get healed caused harm, you know. But then me being aware of it and holding space with that, because that wasn't the first or the last, and probably won't be the last time that we're in a relationship and distance or disconnection or not belonging to each other causes a certain type of harm. And I think that we keep kind of circling back. It's important to tell that story because I think it's fully human for us to both cause harm intentionally, unintentionally, and be harmed intentionally, unintentionally. So like that's where I really do say the space of loving joy comes in, because acknowledging that I caused some harm there and then being able to talk about it so vulnerably is how, what you said is how we actually grow. We grow up and we grow into, you know, being in these really loving, joyful relationships with one another. So like when y'all made me aware, I was like, I can't know if I'm not aware. And I can't be in relationship with folks if they don't make me aware of what was happening.
And it's that dichotomous piece, right? Because just to give a little bit of backstory, my brother is an international traveler. He speaks Korean. He has taught English in Korean space, and he has several times gone to Korea for extended periods of time. He's in Ohio right now, and I'm in Oklahoma. So we have a long distance relationship, but we hold each other accountable and responsible to the relationship that we've invested into one another. Because remember, our relationships are transactional. He has a part to play as well as I. And even though there's distance, we've come up with a pact. We check in, we send voice messages, and we see each other often, right? Because this relationship, there's a need for both of us, right? And in those moments where my brother felt that he needed to escape for his own healing, there was a sense of abandonment. That because it's a triad, you know, there's another sister friend that I'll introduce you all to soon, but we felt abandoned by his need to heal. And we wanted his wellness, but we wanted it in this way that we had an understanding, because first and foremost, his wellness is his to do. And I can't judge his wellness and tell him how to do it, right? But it was like, recently our conversation was like, hey, I need you to be right, because how dare I hold him accountable for something that I never shared with him was painful for me, or some experience of trauma that he unintentionally partook in, right? Because we experience that like mothers, fathers, lovers, partners, friends, but the relationship, in order for us to have this collective wellness, has to be a level of communication, accountability, responsibility, and vulnerability, you know, for all of us to be well. we are responsible for our individual wellness, but I'm also responsible for my brother's collective wellness because he's a part of my tribe, right? So, brother, let me ask you this question.
Good.
As it relates to wellness, how do you define wellness for yourself?
Myself.
What does wellness look like for you?
Yeah, I think wellness is, I feel like wellness is a daily wellspring of me being able to feel joy, feel wonder, feel a certain type of um, belongingness to myself, to my community. And in a way, if I need to kind of tell my truth, that the people around me can they can feel that truth, they can bear it, and they will be able to see that my truth telling is a part of how I can commit to this long range wellness.
Yeah.
I think that truth telling for me is one of the things that I always am saying, how honest can I be? How radically honest can I be? Or will this break their back? Especially being a Black person.
Right.
Especially being a Black man. Like, how can I tell the genocide that has happened to us in this country? How can I tell the harm that incarceration or addiction or traumas, individually and collectively, how can I tell that for my healing? How can I garden that for my healing? And then what does my story do to others who feel that silence is best until they can tell their truth in the sense of safety? Because to be real, if you want to be well, you're going to have to give up safety. When you want to be well, you got to tell some truth that's going to make people unsafe, especially as a Black person. Like me as a Black man, I'm going to be telling truths that are going to make you feel guilty. They're going to make you feel hurt. They're going to make you feel a sense of accountability that comes after the guilt, the shame, and everything else, right? So my wellness is to always be someone who can tell the truth, because I don't do it all the time, and I want to get to 100%. I'm not there yet, but I want to get there. My wellness is to feel the utter joy that comes after the type of despair and chaos and feeling unloved and unbelonged, right? My type of wellness becomes when I'm in community with people who love me because they think that I'm worthy of it, and by ways of coming through the portal of my mom, that it's something that they should do. Right. I think that that is how I would kind of think about what a space of wellness would look like. And to be real, in America, in the Western world, many folks don't want Black people to be well. I mean, actually, there's policy and law and structures and people that benefit off of those structures because of Black unwellness. So if I can tell my truth, tell my community's truth, and get wellness in that way, that's how I can become fully human.
I'm so like full of my feelings, because this is the very point of this channel, is to share stories as life lessons. And our stories are our truths, so that we get to live out loud, that we can heal, so that we become a demonstration and a representation of what wellness can be and what it looks like, right? Because like you said, there are not very many spaces that we get to be whole. And there are systems and institutions that benefit off of our unwellness. Right? Because prisons, capitalist ventures of many sorts and kinds and what have you, right?
Schools, churches, prisons, government, universities, are built. I mean, if there's any case that we want to study that it shows like how institutions are built off of Black unwellness, look at what Sister Nicole Hannah Jones had to do. Like, knowing that this sister deserved tenure, knowing that she deserved it, she had to decide to go to Howard, take that $15 to $20 million that she was going to have anyway.
Right.
Take it to Howard because the place that she cut her teeth as a journalist student decided that they wanted to play with her wellness, play with her humanity, play with her agency. So there's nothing wrong with us saying that, you know what? I see y'all playing with my wellness. I'm going to choose me and my community. All right. Like, I see y'all playing. So I'm going to choose me and my community. And I think that's what we have to do. Decide when people are playing with our wellness on, I keep saying this to my mom because I've been in conversation a lot. They playing on my intelligence. They kind of trying to play me. Right. Like, when Black people say that, oh, y'all playing.
Oh, y'all playing with me.
Or you trying to be cute. Right. You trying to be cute. You trying to be funny.
Like our parents say, oh, you think you cute?
You think you cute, right? I think when we understand that people and institutions are built off of our unwellness, when we seek to define our wellness for ourselves and in relationships, like we become like, we become better people. We become better community members, right? Because there ain't no, I go back to even your dissertation, like when you, do you really want to be well, right? Like that type of question that kind of came from, you know, the text that you were kind of citing from. I forget the name of the author in the text, but like that question that you're seeking.
Cade Bombarda.
Yeah, Tony K. Barbara is like Salt Eaters. Like when she's saying like, sis, do you really want to be well, right? We got to not only ask that question, like, do you really want to be well? Because you fucking around with unwellness with these institutions and these people.
And it's about to get real.
Like, it's about to get real. So like, that's how I would continue to think about, oh, hi, I'm Millie. I'm sorry. Oh no, you good. I got something. 1 second. T, because my Aunt Millie just popped in.
Hey, Millie.
This is my sis Tiffany. We're having a
we love the elders. Thank you so much. Take a moment. But friends, it's about this collective wellness that we are expressing, that we have to be first partakers of it. And like I said on another episode, that if this space is not good for your wellness, you have to make this decision to say, hey, it is either me staying here in losing parts of myself, or becoming a very representation of the thing that I value, the thing that I understand about myself. I'm worthy of keeping myself whole. I'm worthy of keeping myself together, because wellness should not always be a battle. Wellness is a stance, but wellness should not always be a battle. And this is something that I've learned with my brother, that I deserve to be well. You know, he mentioned my dissertation. My dissertation's title is To Be Wild and Well. It is a manifesto for the love of Black girls. And as this Black girl, and the Black girl that came through the portals of my body, and the woman that I came through, it is a manifesto that says that there is wellness here. We just got to go back and remember it. We got to unearth it, and we got to stand on it, right? Because wellness is a position. It is a stance that we deserve. And
Millie said you got a really positive message. We moving forward.
I thank you so much. And from an elder to up and coming, I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much.
Okay.
We would love to hear from Aunt Millie. Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See, friends, the only validation we should seek is those of our own, right? First validation comes from you, because you are your first witness. You don't need an amen from anybody else, because you know wellness is a state of being. But it is such an honor to have those that you love and love you back validate where you are. So, brother,
hold on, isn't that? Hold on, who is that? Because his song goes, "It's so good loving someone."
Come on, Teddy.
Back. Who is?
Wait, that's Teddy.
It's real though. Like it is so good to be able to be in a loving relationship where you know that all of it can come. Like all of your good, all of your bad, all your vulnerabilities, and all of your joy can come.
All of it.
Yeah. So keep going though. Let's keep going.
Okay. So next question. What is your greatest joy when it comes to wellness? Because for me personally, my greatest joy on the journey to wellness is my self-awareness. I said this morning that can't nobody tell me about me. And at so many junctures and forks and crossroads of my life, I didn't know that. I didn't know who I was. And in this moment, my greatest joy when it comes to wellness is my self-awareness. So I ask you the same question, brother. What is your greatest joy?
Greatest joy? I would say laughter. I love to have a good time. I actually love laughing at the good things, but also the contradictions. Like, I love laughing. Like, I was at the bank the other day. I give you like an example. And one of my high school buddies, name is Johnnie, and he works at the bank as like a personal banker. And I go in, and you know, like what we do in public, you want to kind of like have that joy. And I just kind of was like, hey, how's it going? He's getting ready for vacation. Got like 9 days. And the white bank manager, who we also went to high school with, walks by us and says, "You boys better get back to work." So me, you know, like when a black man is called a boy, like that takes representation, right? And it's I remember my mother and my father, my grandfather, and my grandmother taught me, don't ever let white people call you boy, because the next thing that comes is like your enslavement, basically. And it takes us back to that era. Yes. So I look at Johnnie as the dude by, and I was just like, fam, like, I'm sorry you got to deal with this 8 hours out of the day, because I've been here for 10 minutes and I already feel there's something against my life. I was like, I know I'm not a boy.
Right.
And then he and I started laughing. It's like, I see that's their problem. They don't even know deeply the power of their tongue.
Right.
And then I asked him, I was like, what would I do? Or what would happen if I just went over and cut his tongue out? I was like, would you get fired for that? And he just started laughing. He was just like, man, don't do it. Don't do it. I was like, he and I just started laughing. I was like, you got 9 days. That means we got 9 days to get on this vacation and get free, right? And I ain't gonna mess this up for you. So I'm gonna let it go. But just so you know. So we talk and laugh and kikiing as we do.
Right.
White dude walk back by, and I'm dressed in like a sweatshirt and some sweatpants and some shoes because my day off. It's Friday.
Right. You know?
He was like, he tried to hand me the screwdriver, the white dude, and says like, can you go outside and fix the sign? And I was just like, I make more money than you, fam. And it's my day off. I pay people to fix my stuff. So, and then Johnnie look at me and grin, and I grin at Johnnie, and then the white dude comes around. He was like, oh, I'm just joking with you. And I was just like, nah, no, you wasn't.
Right.
But it's cool though. I was like, how much does it cost for you to come fix stuff at my house?
Ooh. Because we hire help. We're no longer the help, right? It's this level of liberation that we've experienced that, like we just said, it's those larger systems, but also those interactive ways in which, right, that they see us. Like you said, the only way that a black boy is a black man is a black boy is when he has black boy joy. That's it. Right? And we have to change our language. Oh boy, no. This is a man. This is something that needs to be exalted and lifted, because in so many other places, that's right, he's not revered as the man that he has become and that he's yet becoming. So, like you said, we talk about naming here, defining, and defending. And in this case, we got to defend it. How dare you disrespect my manhood? I'm never a boy. I'm a boy in my own space, because, we get into black girl and black boy, whatever those things are, magic, joy, laughter, but it's of our own accord. You don't get to do that to me.
Yeah, you don't get to, because we know our ancestor, Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without a demand.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing. And with that, we have to always, it's not on Jordy to do that at work. It's on me to come into your work and affirm you, love on you as a customer. I always like, how is my favorite black banker doing? And we always laugh about it. But it's in that affirmation, in that laughter, in that humanity, joy gets created.
Yes.
You have to. I know that. But like I told Jordy, I was like, you are me at my job. I'm the Jordy at my job, where I'm the only little fly in the buttermilk. The only little fly in the buttermilk. So when I come into this job, when I come into your workspace, my first thing is I hook that left and I check on you. What's good? Because I was raised right. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. What do we say? We used to say this all the time in grad school, like, why aren't these black folks speaking to each other?
Right. How are we invisible to one another when we're invisible to everybody else? How dare you?
Because I think that, like, we got to get back to, like, when I see you, my job is to either say, you all right? How you doing?
Right.
What you do?
Right. Did you eat?
Did you eat? You need some lotion? Because, you out here, you unhydrated. Like,
right.
Let me get you.
Right.
Let me get you.
We gotta we get ourselves together, and we keep one another together. Like you say, do you need me to cut his throat? And Jordan was like, hold up, I got you on that too. Right. We secure one another.
Security.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's so, but it's profound, because I also see that in supporting Black businesses, right? Mm-hmm. I'm helping you get your weight up. There's this young sister, and this young lady is the candle making queen. Her name is Tasha Ann, and one of my little sisters from New Orleans. And I'm like, yes, give me that. Oh, I'm trying not to spend too much money, but supporting one another. Stop talking about what we're doing and stop asking for discounts on your Black businesses too. Stop it. Because we have so much to contend with that is outside of ourselves, that we got to find safety with one another. Now, mind you, we've come to a point, even as we've been, because we've been petty before, and we've watched, like you said, how Black folk in a room and we don't speak to one another. Skin folk and kin folk, friends, we are aware of all of those little intersections, right? Mm-hmm. But it don't take nothing for a smile or a nod or hey across the room.
Ain't that what
it's still
say?
Okay?
It don't
right?
It don't take nothing to speak.
Nothing, because see, the other folk are watching us, and I'm not going to validate their assumptions by not speaking to you. Now, I know we might not be in close proximity and running the same circles, but I'm still going to acknowledge you, friend, acquaintance.
Yeah. I can at least check somebody's temperature.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. And that instills, the joy that we're talking about, because my wellness inspires me to make sure that you're well, right? Not to make you well. There's a difference, because you're, like we talk about on the channel, you're responsible for your own wellness. But I live as a representation of what it can look like, and what I look like not speaking to you. Right? It's not that I done took you under my bosom, because you may not be ready for that. Right? But I'm gonna make sure, like, I'm gonna walk by you, check your neck, because that may be the very thing that you need, that seed, that water, that time, that soil. I may be one of those parts to play where you get to blossom. Come on, brother.
Yeah, the type of microaggressions or things that kill your joy on a daily as a Black person, like, it's hard to keep account of all those things that keep killing your joy and are against your life. Like the story I told you about the white bank manager, like, those were 2 attempts on our lives to kill our humanity. So when we become an affirmation, and I can micro-affirm my life and other people's lives, that pours into you a certain type of wellspring of joy. So I know I'm responsible for, and I try to do this with my white colleagues, but they so resistant to having love and joy coming from me. Like, and I just be like, I just give them the ABCs. Like, these are the ABCs of your job, because I was put in charge of this. Affirmation for A, belonging for B, community for C.
That's it.
I got through the A and the B, but they didn't want the C. So that becomes a metaphor for what? For how we've always tried to create these intercultural Black and white communities, right? And trying, so if you reject my C, that means you reject me. We putting down poetry today. And
come on, brother.
It's that simple. But I have decided to not let that kill my joy. I put it out there for them to learn and for them to love. But if you cannot accept it and you want to come back to it, you always free to come back in rotation to get affirmation, belonging, and community. Because the least amount of things that you need to cause your joy. The least amount. Everything else you can do yourself. But I can create that.
And it's so key that you said that we're always trying to create these spaces of intersectional, whatever that be, places of joy with the ABCs of affirmation, belonging, and community. But it's not that you don't reciprocate those things, because there is no C. Like you said, this reciprocity has to happen. You have to do the same for me, because that's the only kind of tribes we want right now. That's it. And we want everybody, for us, everybody get to come to the barbecue. We might not eat what you brought. We asked who made the potato salad, but you can still come. You know what? Interesting ingredients. I'm gonna check it out. But you still get to come. And like you said, we still gonna circle back around, because how dare we not include, right? Because the work that we also do, my brother is the director of diversity, inclusion, and equity in the space that he operates in. How dare we not? Because the deepest level of equity is about that circling back, right? You're not ready. And I acknowledge where you are, in the space that you are. You know, maybe the first time I spoke was the water, right? And then the next time we circle back around, you have had other spaces of growth where there was sunlight, a little more tilling of the soil and the aeration, where you are ready now for a community because you understand that there's a need for affirmation and belonging and community in your space as well. And you're ready to give that, right? Rather than always taking, right? You know, we see, like you named Nicole Hannah Jones, it's this snatching away of worth and of work, right? Because I believe that the underlying impetus of this first and only Black person to not get tenure in a position that was tenure is written in the description is because of her 1619 Project work, right? And this resistance is like, how dare you speak on, right? How dare you be full and free in the face of, and I'm going to chastise you in the ways that I can, right? We're not existing in those spaces anymore because we're the gift.
You know, one of the things I have a lot of joy about and love about you is I love when you say things like, how dare you? Because to be Black and woman and daring, there's a whole legacy of that, right? Like you can go from Anna Julia Cooper to Harriet Tubman to our mentor, Denise Telefero Brazil,
right?
To you, to Nicole Jones, to our sister, Crystal Phillips. Like, the idea of being Black and woman and daring will get you in community with others, but it could get you killed. Like it can really killed in a way that, physical, but they tried to kill sis spirit.
Emotionally.
How dare you, right? Ooh. How dare you try to heal your ancestors by telling their story in such a very triumphant way where I'm not just a victim, I'm also the victor, right? Like, how dare you do it? But when you escape from a school and you say, like, you know what? In the sandbox that y'all created and y'all try to put bleach in there, and then I'm good. I'm gonna go over here with the big homie Ta-Nehisi. I'm gonna go to Howard. I'm gonna be
Howard. Yes.
I'm also going to take my little coins with me.
My whole purse.
Also, I'm gonna release a stick, right? And then I'm gonna wear Liberation Pink to talk to the big homie Gail, who wears Liberation Yellow, and read y'all for filth and read myself for freedom.
Say it for Liberation Pink and Yellow. Come on.
You know, look.
You know what, kinfolk? We vibe on a whole nother level sometimes. I'm just saying. You know, it's so profound. I was listening to NPR yesterday, and it was this segment that two young African-American women were speaking on, black girl, you know, and they were talking about who stands up for Black women. And immediately there was this sense of pain that sat in my body. But then I had to quickly remember there is one. I stand up for me, because their response to that question was Black women. You know, and they talked about the demographics of other intersections of race, gender, class, what have you, right? Naming even Black men not standing up in significant ways that they named for Black women in these spaces where we have to step out on nothing as Black women and show our faces away from the crowd and say, how dare you? Right? Where's the voice of, you know, we watched this Native American clip a while back where she said, how dare you, white lady? Have your white man stood up for you right then and there. In a moment that wasn't even your space. He came to your rescue. Right? And, you know, these sisters were saying, who comes to the rescue of a Black woman? And their response was a Black woman. And in that moment, I was like, yes, but we are creating spaces. Hopefully this becomes one of the spaces where Black men understand that there is a tribal and connection in ancestral ways in which we can heal together, because a man that ain't healed can't stand up for nobody. And I understood in that moment that everybody has a part to play. And right now, like Belle said, you got to do your own work before you can have this collective work done. I had to do my own work and then share that work and be vulnerable enough to say, hey, brother, can you take a look at this? So that now I got you in the community and hooked you. And now look at you healing. But it had to be, I had to take my own part, right? So I'm believing that the next time we ask that question, we will say, it is us that stand up for us, and that it is we that stand up for we, because it's not just us. You know what I'm saying? They got some black daddies out there that'll fight. They got some black cousins, because I got them, that don't play with her. Don't disrespect her. Don't call her out of her name, because they're there. And I acknowledge that in a black man, because ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like a black man's energy. But when we get to that question on these national stages, where they have the courage and the vulnerability to say, don't play with her. Because yet we are tired as black women of taking the role in our sacred masculine energy, right? Because a lot of that becomes where we got to step into our sacred masculine energy and not sit in a sacred feminine as queen, as mother, as woman, right? Because warrior energy is masculine energy, right? And we all have it, because we've had this conversation about the sacred masculine and the divine feminine, right? How we embody all of that. But too many times we as women have to step into that masculine energy. But I believe that there is a moment that's coming, that has arrived, where our brothers are in that warrior energy, that Oshun energy gets to sit, where Shango stands or Ogun stands and says, don't play with her.
Right.
I found that in you many times. And that's why I'm like, this spotlight is necessary, because you allow for the ease of a woman to sit. And you're like, let me grab that plate for you. I've seen it, right?
We've had those many moments, like, hey, Jay, I got to move from Ohio back to Oklahoma. Can you be there to help pack, put stuff in the truck, and kind of, get ghosts? Hey, Jay, like, my flight is late. Zoe and the babysitter, da 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 da. I was like, it's not. What does she need to eat? How long you need me to stay? What you let me know, and I'll kind of do that. But the same has happened for me. Like, hey, T, like, I'm hungry. I don't feel like cooking. I need some good conversation and some good food. All right, yeah, come through. I got some gumbo. Right. I got some here. Hey, T, can I just read you this paper? And I don't even need for you to do anything, just to listen and let's talk through it. Hey, T, what you think about this? You know what I mean? I think that the co-liberation of Black folks, of Black girls, women, and Black elder women, Black boys, Black men, Black elder men, in order for us to survive, we have to really be in relationship that is rare, I would say. And to figure out and tell those stories of, like, how have we showed up and showed out for each other in a way where it goes against the national discourse around how Black boys, Black men, Black girls, and Black women are often at odds with each other. Like, they're going to produce this report after Black girls, they're going to produce this report after Black boys. I don't got to choose. I want to show up for both. I mean, they're going to produce this report after Black men and this report after Black women. I'm not going to choose. I'm going to show up for both.
Right.
Like, that is us being able to show up for both, is able to be able to show up for joy, of love, of liberation, because I think when we dig into the crates of our history, we have ancestors that we can kind of take out like records and say, like,
yes,
let me dust this off. They showed up for both. They showed up for both. But we have to figure out the constellation of how we can show up for both. That's the medicine, that's the wellness, that's the joy. And it's difficult to do it, but if we talk about it in hushed tones, but also in public,
right,
we can get there.
Right. I think that's so profound. Like you said, we have models of how to do this right. And I think that if we turn away from what has been presented to us, particularly in media and all these other outlets, right? And we go within our line, our ancestral line. We talk to our aunts and uncles and great aunts and great uncles, and we figure out, how do we show up for one another? How do we love on one another? How do we provide space for one another? That, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. When I do, in my morning rituals, I do ancestor veneration. And I dig and unearth the stories, like you call them albums. I call them the annals, the books, right? Because each of us are a story and we're reading each other's stories all the time, right? So like my great aunt, Helen, has become one of the most forefront ancestors because she's passed many years ago, but she's showing me a different way to woman in this world, to Black woman in this world, through the life that she shared, in the life that she lived, in the life that she shares now. You believe what you want to believe, right? I'm gonna leave that on up to you. Those of us that don't understand ancestor veneration, but she's showing me what not to do. Not to be self-sacrificing, to care for myself first, to relax. Rest is reverence and joy to our ancestors because they didn't get to rest. They didn't get to have leisure. And I share and rest as reverence to my ancestors. My aunt would say, sit down somewhere. Sit down. Because I couldn't. You make me live again when you sit, when you love, when you have joy, when you laugh, when you heal. And that's the work that we get to do when we see what we've seen and we do something different. This is different, and I'm so grateful, but it's never without its challenges, brother. What has become or has been your greatest challenge to wellness? For me, my greatest challenge has been letting go. It's like letting go of the familiar.
Yeah.
Right? Because pain and trauma is familiar. It's what you know, it's what you can expect.
Yeah.
But wellness, like she said, do you want to be well?
Oh, yeah.
Because healing is no trifling matter. You got to do something different to heal. And that's been my greatest challenge. So what has been your greatest challenge?
Yeah. When you were telling the story about your Aunt Helen, that woman that walked in here while we were talking, my great Aunt Millie, has been a loyal, loving, liberatory person that is a thought partner, who is the mother of her church.
Yes.
Who's been a mother to me, who's been a other mother to generations of Black kids, white kids, Latinx kids, Native American kids. Like, her presence and me wanting to get up and be like, okay, like, I'm talking here, but all my aunt is here. Like, and she has helped me understand what it means to steward my life.
Yeah.
And what it means to steward relationships in a way. what it means to steward land in a way. To be a loyal steward to her is her relationship and nurturance from God.
Yeah.
And my relationship being a loyal steward to her and people like her in my life has been a joy. One of the challenges has been the immediate people who have faced, I would say, genocide by ways of being put down in America, and me trying to figure out how I forget. My word this year has been joy. My word in 2022 is forgiveness.
Yes.
I want to do better at practicing forgiveness. Forgiving my mom for encountering prison in a way that was in my formative years. Forgiving my dad for encountering prison in my formative years, but his also formative years. Forgiving myself for the shame and guilt that has been placed on me of generations of men and Black women who have faced addiction, incarceration, shame, guilt, fear. And when I'm claiming forgiveness next year and years after, I want to be up to the challenge. You asked like what has been my challenge.
Yeah.
Forgiveness has been a big challenge to give grace and joy to people and give mercy.
Yes.
Like the brother Brian His book about just mercy. I want to practice forgiveness, and in that be able to give mercy and joy to people and give it to myself.
Yes.
In a way that is loving and kind. So that's been really hard for me.
I have something that in a year's time I'm going to send to you. Hold on for a second.
Okay.
And just like we share, I had one of my students paint this for me. And as an educator, I talk about forgiveness. And it says, what is forgiveness? It says, forgiveness is a conscious, deliberate decision to release the feelings of resentment and vengeance towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless to whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean condoning or excusing the offense. Though forgiveness can help repair a damaged relationship, it does not obligate you to reconcile with the person who has harmed you or release them from legal accountability. Instead, forgiveness can bring the forgiver you peace of mind and frees him or her from corrosive anger. I think that a lot of times, and I'm sending this to you.
I love it. Thank you.
They give us this definition of forgiveness. You know, I've seen even in the case where the young police officer in Texas says that she went to the wrong house and killed the young Black man. His name slips my mind.
Botham John, yes. He's I think he's a Haitian American. Botham.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how there was this talk of forgiveness as this release of accountability, or this release of, you know, let's forget the offense and act like it didn't happen. Like there is no reconciliation. There has to be reconciliation without accountability, right? And what angered me about those situations is that there's always talk of reconciliation and forgiveness without accountability when it comes to Black violence, when it comes to Black reparations. And I'm just going to throw that word out there. You know, our healing comes through forgiveness rather than the legal accountability of the trauma and the violence and the massacre and what all those things that has happened to us as a result of another people group or person, right? That is not the new, we go institute a new definition, which this is a clinical, this is what forgiveness actually is from APA, American Psychological Association. I actually took that definition because a lot of the conversations that we were having in my class when we started to talk about the Civil War and Reconstruction and civil rights, my students were at odds with one another. And I said, wait a minute, forgiveness is not a lack of accountability. Forgiveness releases you from the trauma, but it still says, I'm free, I forgive you, but you can't be in my space because you're not safe for me. Forgiveness says, hey, I forgive you, but you still owe me this $100,000. Those two things don't go together. You got to give me my money, bring me my coins. But I forgive you. And I think that if we start to enact a different way of forgiveness that is not a lack of accountability, that our communities and our people will start to heal. Because like you said, having understand that the greatest difficulty for us has been, for some, forgiveness. I want to introduce to you that forgiveness is about you. And we're going to see about them later. That's next.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's for you.
It is. And you know, like everything that you were saying there, the reason why I want to plant that seed of forgiveness in me is about reparations. Like me being, and I want to name it genocide because my parents were stolen from me.
Yes, Lord.
The same way that their grandparents and great grandparents, and through mass addiction, mass incarceration. I was entering in a conversation with my mom yesterday, 2 days ago, about her going to a one-room schoolhouse in Greenville, Mississippi, and looking across the street at the white school and seeing how shiny it was, how the multiple rooms, how beautiful it was. And it was one street that divided them. I'm one generation out of that. I'm 2 generations out of my grandparents, my grandpa particularly, going to a similar school in the South. We are owed reparations. Like we are owed that. So forgiveness for me is to be able to forgive a Black girl who grew up in Jane Crow's South, who then becomes someone who gets addicted, who then becomes someone who goes and gets incarcerated, who then becomes now a 63-year-old Black woman who is healing herself through relationship with other people. And to understand how she survived genocide teaches me how I can survive the genocide, and how forgiveness is a turning back to one another. And that's wellness.
Yes, it is. Say that, brother. Forgiveness is a turning back to one another.
Back. Yeah. So
if like we don't say nothing else,
take that. You can have it. That's for free. Like, you take that.
You can say you made that up.
Yeah, you can have. Yeah, right. You don't even gotta cite your boy or cite your girl. Just go ahead and take it and keep going with it, because it's a micro affirmation.
Yes, it's
a community thing. It's a belonging thing. Us turning back to one another in a way that is not turning on one another is something that is like critical right now.
I talked about that in vulnerability in the process of transformation, because there's this violence that happens, right? When you come to this vulnerability space, it's what do you do? It's either internal or external violence that is experienced. You either start talking real bad to yourself or talking bad to the people that are most closest to you. And those are the people that, unfortunately, when we are not healed by way of forgiveness, we hurt the most, right?
What do they call it? It's like intimate partner violence that happens with someone who is in a violent circumstance, and in their ecology, there's something that is making them run the loop. In your orbit, if there's lots of violence, if there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of trauma in your orbit, then it makes sense that you become violent and you become toxic. So you being able to kind of enter into a different orbit that is something different,
Mm.
and then you being able to say like, oh, I'm not well because this is what I'm orbiting and this is what's orbiting me. Like, and then being able to get out of that, like, ooh, Johnny, like, ooh, like that was, ooh, you was going through it,
Church.
bro. Like, what happened? Yeah,
And to
yeah.
name some of the things
So
that
like,
orbit us, right? It's the bad schoolings. Like
yeah,
you name what Mama Itasta, we're a street where I can look in your backyard and see what I
yeah,
need. Not that I'm coveting. This is for the necessary for my survival, right? Our neighborhoods being food
yeah,
deserts, and we got more gun shops and liquor stores, and then being able to get fresh food. You know, our kids
mm,
don't have after school programs. That is violence that orbits housing or the lack
yeah,
thereof, healthcare or the lack thereof. When you got to go to a whole nother city to get to the hospital, that's violence that
mm,
orbits us. And if we don't name those
yeah,
things, they get in your
yeah,
house, right? And
yeah,
those are the
yeah,
ways in which when we can't do nothing about it or we feel that we can't, that internal or external violence start to happen in this interplay in the relationships that we value the most,
yeah.
because we value one another, but we just don't know how to be well with one another. But friends,
Yeah.
we want you to understand that wellness is possible.
It is, and it's a joyful type of relationship. When you were talking about wellness, one thing that popped in my mind is the word welcome.
Mm.
Just to be able to come well into a place, whether it is your home or your community or like
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Like, how do
Yes.
you welcome yourself and nurture that inner child in a way that you say that trauma that you feel and that you've had, you are not that. And
Mm.
you are actually more welcome in this body than what you know.
Yes,
Like in
Lord.
telling yourself, be able to ease yourself. You talked about the nurturing earlier. And I think that when we get on a path of healing and being welcome in our body and being nurturing, it becomes something that's so life giving and
Yes, it
sustaining
is.
that you can. I love your question earlier about what the challenge was. You can overcome
Mm.
that challenge. You can kind of be in relationship to your wellness in a way
Mm.
that is beautiful, that is bright, that's more than resilient, because resilient is the very baseline of living, right? So, what does it mean for you to be well and to come well and to be joyful, not just resilient, right? Like, so I think that that is like key for us to be able to nurture our spirits like that.
Whew. I done been to church and back to the
Right.
altar. We done collected an offering. And now
That's real.
we go into the fellowship hall and dine
Hey,
on what was brought, right? Because there was a meal here, there was a ceremony had here, there was a word here. And
mm,
I think that with this wellness spotlight, we will have you back, because
let's do it.
we always need a different perspective, right? Because I know me, but I need you to share with me who you are, right? Because that's
Mm,
the relationship that we have. That's the transaction that we've committed to. And brother, I want to thank you so much for being
sure.
open and being
Yeah.
vulnerable and sharing your journey to wellness with us, including the
Yeah.
joy and the challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because wellness is a journey. And when we
Yeah.
acknowledge it full well as this relationship, like you said, the journey within yourself, that relationship that you have with yourself, being open and cracking yourself open to yourself is necessary for us to have wellness spill over and have our cups run over, you know, that we get to share with our community. So I want to appreciate you so much and thank you so much for giving us a chunk of your Sunday today to share with us.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. I feel so blessed to be in community with you. Again, like that type of loving joy that, you know, you've inspired in me and I've inspired in you in the transformative relationship.
Yes.
I feel very whole in having this conversation today. So I'm giving myself a hug and hoping that the audience gives themselves a hug, because that's what this conversation has been. It's been a hug.
Yes.
So,
kinfolk bosom hug, you know, friends, I am full. I am overwhelmed. I'm trying not to cry because this has been such a gift that, you know, has been a part of my journey that if I don't do this, I ain't doing nothing. I ain't doing much of nothing. I'm not on my path. And just to be able to share what wellness looks like from a male perspective helps us all heal as a community. So yet again, this is the first of many. And this is a Tune Day. And this has been our story. Be well, friends. See you soon.